This video is about how scientists group organisms into different categories. Remember that all organisms are grouped into different species, and a species is a group of organisms that look alike, act alike, and have the ability to interbreed and produce fertile offspring. This just means that they can have sex and have babies that are healthy and also able to reproduce. Also remember that these two skunks are different species even though they look alike. We know they are different species because they are unable to reproduce together. Let's look at another example. Are these two organisms different species or the same species? How do you know? Well, they kind of look alike. They definitely act alike. They both walk on four legs, have fur, make loud growls, eat meat. But the real question is, can they reproduce and have healthy babies? No. Because they cannot interbreed and produce fertile offspring, they are different species. So now that you know what species are, let's add some more information. All organisms on Earth are organized into categories. First, all organisms are grouped by their kingdom, which is the broadest category. There are 6 kingdoms that include all the organisms on Earth. Then they are organized into phylums, then classes, then orders, then families, then genuses, then species. Notice the order of categories goes K, P, C, O, F, G, S. The way that I remember this is by a silly mnemonic device. King Philip came over from Great Spain. K, P, C, O, F, G, S. King Philip came over from Great Spain. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus. Remember that order. So what are these categories? Let me try to explain using an example. If you have to tell an alien where your favorite class is located, how would you describe where it is? First, you would start really broad or general. You tell the alien it's on the planet Earth, because how else does it know where to look? First, tell it it's on Earth. Now you can get a little more specific. You can tell the alien it's in the United States. Then a little more specific. It's in Massachusetts. Then it's in the city of Waltham. Then it's on Lexington Street. Then it's in Waltham High School. And finally, you can be really specific and say it's in room 244, biology class. Notice how you started really broad or general, and then the location of the room became very, very specific. This is exactly how you organize organisms into categories. You start really broad and put them into kingdoms, maybe the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom. But there are millions of other organisms in these kingdoms, so then you have to get even more specific. Then you classify them into phylum, then a class, then an order, then a family, then a genus, and finally into a species. A species is the most specific of all categories. Let's now look at some examples of classification. Here's a reminder of the classification system. Everything is given a kingdom name, then a phylum name, then a class name, then an order name, then family, then genus, then species. As you go down this list, the categories become more and more specific. Here's how humans are classified using this system. Humans belong to the animal kingdom. So do dogs and cats and birds and worms and jellyfish. So that's not very helpful. Let's get a little more specific. Humans are then classified in the phylum Chordata. So are all other animals that have backbones, like dogs and cats and birds. Humans are then classified in the class Mammalia. So are all other animals with backbones that can nurse their young, meaning feed them with breast milk. Dogs and cats can also do this. Humans are then classified in the order Primates. Monkeys are also classified here. Notice we are getting more and more specific. Dogs, cats, birds, worms, jellyfish are no longer in these categories. They have their own categories. Humans are then classified in the family Hominid. Finally, we are classified in the genus Homo, and then the species Sapien. Only humans are in the species Sapien. This is the most specific category. Take a look at this example. First, the picture is showing you organisms belonging to the kingdom Animalia. Notice there are over 1 million species grouped here. But in the phylum Chordata, there are only 40,000 animals organized into this group. Then it gets more specific. Class Aves, there's only about 8,000. Order Passiformis, only about 5,000 species. Even more specific in the family, 125, genus 28. And finally, we're down to the last category, which is species. There's only one. So you go from least specific or really broad all the way down to most specific. So you now know that all organisms can be grouped into different categories. In addition, each species has their own specific name. Their specific name is their genus and species category written together but italicized. For example, a lily in the park is really called Lilium bubiferum. Lilium is the genus name and bubiferum is its species name. Notice it's italicized. Humans are also called Homo sapiens. Homo is the genus name and sapiens is a species name. Dogs are called Canis familiaris and wolves are called Canis lupus. Here's a practice question. Which two organisms are most closely related? Well, how would you know? You have to look to find which two organisms share their genus name. Their genus name is kind of like their last name. It's the group that they both belong to. The two most similar organisms are number 1, Drosophila melanogaster, and number 4, Drosophila suzuki. Here's another practice problem. Which two monsters are most closely related? It looks like they all belong to the kingdom Animalia, so that's not really helpful in narrowing down the answer. It looks like they all belong to the phylum Monstera. Okay, how about the class? They're all belonging to the same class, so we still don't know how they're different yet. If we get a little more specific, notice Monster 1 is part of the order Humana. I made that up. Monster 2 is Arthropoda, Monster 3 is Ghosta, and Monster 4 is Arthropoda. Now we can figure out which two are most similar. Well, we're going to get rid of Monster 1 and 3 because they are part of different orders. Only Monster 2 and 4 are part of the same order. So now we can go down the rest. The family, they're both insects. Genus, they're both Laboratoria. And species, they have different species because each group of organism has a different species name. So to answer the question, Monster 2 and Monster 4 are most similar. You may remember that I just said that there are 6 kingdoms that all organisms are classified into. These next 2 sections, I will teach you about the characteristics of organisms in these 6 kingdoms. The first kingdom is Archaebacteria. Archaebacteria are types of prokaryotes, meaning they do not have a nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. They are unicellular, which means they are only one cell big. They both make their food and eat their food, and they live in extreme environments. Think of the worst possible place on Earth to live, like at the bottom of an ocean or in a volcano. That's where Archaebacteria live. You'll notice under nutrition, I said that they are autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are organisms that produce their own food, like plants. Auto, they do it themselves. Remember that plants use photosynthesis to create their own glucose, which is their food? Well, Archaebacteria do something similar. They are also autotrophs. But some Archaebacteria are also heterotrophs. This means they eat their food, like us, animals. We cannot produce our food, so we have to eat it. We're heterotrophs. The second kingdom is bacteria. I'm sure you know a little bit about bacteria already. Have you ever heard of E. coli or Salmonella? Those are examples of bacteria. Bacteria are prokaryotes, are unicellular, are autotrophs and heterotrophs, and because they are prokaryotes, do not have a nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. Just a reminder, I've listed out the definition of a prokaryote. Prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. Remember, no. Prokaryotes also do not have membrane-bound organelles, so they don't have a mitochondria or lysosomes. And they reproduce or divide by asexual reproduction. The third kingdom is Protista. Protists are amoebas and parameciums and other small microscopic eukaryotes. All protists are eukaryotes like animals and plants. They can either be unicellular, which means they're only one cell big, or multicellular, which means they're made of many, many cells. They can also be autotrophs or heterotrophs. Another reminder about eukaryotes. They do have a nucleus, and they do have membrane-bound organelles like mitochondria, lysosomes, or maybe vacuoles and chloroplasts. Let's do the remaining 3 kingdoms. The 4th kingdom is fungi. Fungi are mushrooms, yeasts, and molds, the stuff that grows on your bread or your fruit or even on your toes. Fungi are types of eukaryotes, are unicellular or multicellular, and are always heterotrophs. The way they eat their food is really strange. They absorb it through their cell membrane instead of eating it through a mouth. Most importantly, fungi are decomposers. Fungi are a type of decomposers, which means that they eat dead organisms and return the nutrients back to the soil. Anytime something dies, plants, animals, or even humans, bacteria and fungi work together to break down their bodies and break it back into soil. A common misconception is that fungi are photosynthetic. That's not true. Fungi do not perform photosynthesis. The only way they get their energy is by absorbing the molecules of dead bodies through their cell membranes. They are decomposers. The 5th kingdom is Plantae. Examples of plants are trees and flowers. Plants are eukaryotes, multicellular, autotrophic, and they all perform photosynthesis. Do you remember that photosynthesis is a process of taking light energy and converting it into sugar to be used by the plant? This is how plants make their own food. Plants take in water, carbon dioxide, light energy, and make oxygen gas and glucose. Photosynthesis happens in the chloroplast of plant cells. Plants also contain a large vacuole to store waters and salts, and they also have a rigid outside border called a cell wall. This is what makes them different from animals. Finally, the last kingdom is Animalia, the animal kingdom. Snakes, worms, fish, birds, whales, humans are all in the animal kingdom. Animals are eukaryotes and multicellular and heterotrophs, which means we have to eat our food. We can produce it on our own like plants. Animals do not have chloroplasts or a large vacuole or a cell wall like plants. That's all I have. Write down your questions and ask me in class.